Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So something I am noticing more and more in the comments is this whole idea of it's okay, trucking will get better because there are a ton of illegal immigrants in the industry, and considering the immigration crackdown that is happening right now, trucking is bound to get better because capacity will decrease. So I decided to explore this concept because it was not completely clear to me, and I want to share with you what I found to figure out what exactly is happening here. Ready? Let's go! So the very first question that I had was, well, is it even possible for an illegal immigrant or an undocumented individual to obtain a CDL? Well, here's the thing. Under federal law, or more specifically, the Commercial Motor Vehicle Safety Act, CDL applicants must provide proof of lawful presence within the US, whether it be citizenship or a green card or an employment authorization document or some type of visa like the H-2B visa. And they're also required to provide a social security number. Now, by definition, an undocumented immigrant is not able to provide that, so there's no way they could get a CDL. But some states have found a way around this whole thing by issuing either non-domiciled CDLs or leveraging some state-specific driver's license policies. Now, more specifically, there are 19 states right now, plus the District of Columbia, which found a way to let undocumented immigrants get a regular driving license. But a regular driver's license versus a CDL, that's kind of night and day, right? Those are two totally different things. These states still have to abide by federal law, whether they like it or not, which means that in order to give out a CDL, the applicant has to provide you proof that they are lawfully present within the US. So in practice, yeah, these people cannot really get a CDL. But of course, there are always loopholes. One example that is given is a person could use their regular driver's license where they did not have to provide any proof of lawful presence and use it as a stepping stone into getting a CDL. All those other documents that are required, like the work authorization or the SSN, could be fraudulent. There's also another example where they say that these folks can get fraudulent documents through corrupt officials. And then, of course, we cannot forget about the carriers who might turn a blind eye to the iffy documentation they're given when someone applies for their job, because even though, and I'm not going to get tired of saying this, there is no truck driver shortage, there is definitely a retention issue with drivers. So these carriers basically turn a blind eye, like I said, and they get to hire cheap labor. Now, all of this talk about fraudulent documents to get a CDL, of course, this is speculation because there's actually no data to support this. So instead, for the sake of the argument, let's pretend that everyone is following the law and no one gets their CDL in some, shady manner. Would an immigration crackdown actually affect the trucking landscape in this case? Well, yeah. According to a business immigration attorney whose name is Hadil Abu Hasira, this immigration crackdown would first and foremost affect cross-border trucking for those traveling between the US, Mexico, and Canada. Abu Hasira states, and I quote, "If the America First trade policy leads to increased scrutiny of truck drivers, some might face more difficulties renewing work permits or crossing the border, further complicating operations for companies that rely on international logistics." And then he adds, "Stricter criteria under the Protecting the United States from Foreign Terrorists and Other National Security and Public Safety Threats Executive Order could result in higher denial rates for visas or in travel restrictions, affecting the availability of foreign drivers." Now, the first thing I thought of was, hey, I read an article about how there are illegal runs with B1 visas, where instead of taking a load from Canada or Mexico into the US, dropping it in the US and returning back, these folks continue working within the US and competing with drivers here. Now, this is where the difference might be felt with this whole immigration thing. Depending on how many B1 visa folks folks actually run through the US or are forced to run throughout the United States. The other thing is, of course, independent contractors. Now, whether they are properly or improperly classified, it's a known fact that a good portion of this industry operates on the independent contractor model, which means that the Form I-9, which is there to verify the identity as well as the employment authorization of the person you're about to hire, this form is not required when you are bringing on an independent contractor. This is only for employees. Now, because of this, Abu Hasira states that, and I quote, there could be more scrutiny with companies that are hiring independent contractors where, for example, during an ICE audit or raid, ICE may ask for a list of everybody affiliated with the company or companies you subcontract with, and it may trickle down to the driver. So to answer the question of, well, what would this immigration crackdown do to trucking? The reality is it depends. It depends on how many folks are obtaining their CDL in a fraudulent manner, how many folks on a B1 visa are hauling throughout the US, and finally, how many people are operating commercial motor vehicles without a CDL. Abu Hasira's opinion is that it's going to affect the companies that rely on these programs and these visas to hire talent. He says that their costs will go up, and he states that ultimately the result may be that consumers notice supply chain disruptions or higher prices. Now, I don't know if this is a real video or if it was just an act, but I recently saw a video of a guy who was filming as he was driving, and he gets pulled over for a roadside inspection. And as the roadside inspection continues, ICE officers show up, and this guy says on camera that that's it, folks, I'm getting deported. If anyone can share their experiences from the road, like what are you seeing? Is it true what they're saying that there are ICE agents at truck stops now? Then there was someone who said that they are setting up checkpoints in New Jersey. What are you guys hearing and seeing? I would be very curious to know because there's not much information on what the reality is for the trucking industry. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining and watching today. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week and weekend. Stay safe, stay healthy, and keep learning. See you in the next video.